who was a inspirer for Satish Kumar. If you read his biography, when Satish set out to walk around the world, he was inspired by Acharya Tulsi. Even Osho knew Acharya Tulsi. He was from a Jain background as well. And so this tradition organised a series of international conferences on peace and non-violent action. I've been invited to, I don't know, about 5 or 6 of them, and I've written their declarations at their request, summing up what people have been saying in the conference. So these are all in the book, but I've also put in other interfaith declarations, and I put in my interfaith peace treaty and so on. So that's, and now I'm working on volume 2. I'm including, because there's too much to go into just one volume. In volume 2 is the founding constitution of the World Health Organization, which is very topical at the moment. Some people are saying it's not a good body. Others are saying it is. I'm saying, well, let's look at its statutes. Also going in there are the International Court of Justice, founding statutes. It's based in The Hague, which was founded through the UN at the end of World War II, because it was decided that we need a world which is based on justice instead of lies and propaganda and war. And then also I'm putting in other things like this wonderful, interesting international tribunal for natural justice, which has been set up by a bunch of people, a charismatic South African chap, and they're holding hearings about the weaponization of the biosphere. So this is bringing this little book of peace declarations right up to now. And there's about 20 of these declarations in there. And I think, I've offered to do a testimony to these people because I think they're on the right wavelength. I think they're a bit biased because I think they ought to be inviting, instead of having people coming on endlessly and saying Bill Gates is evil, he's into vaccinations, invite Bill Gates on, to explain it from his side. You can't have a tribunal which only hears from one side. That's cheating. So, there should be a more Anikant-Vardish roundedness to this work if it's going to be a true international natural justice tribunal, because people like Bill Gates have a natural right to have their side heard. Of course, they may refuse to come, but you can at least invite them, can't you? So anyway, that's in the little book of peace declarations, and I think it's very interesting if you read the text of their constitution. And that leads me to my final point. I keep saying I'll come and talk about coronavirus. Well, okay, so I've been carrying on with research. I don't think it's right that... Okay, so what I've been doing is pursuing lines of inquiry as to the possible etiology of this pandemic that we're all suffering from. And there's so many conflicting scientific theories and lines. I discovered that a French Nobel Prize winner, Luc Montagnier, had come out and said that he thinks definitely this is man-made, doesn't know who by or when. I found it rather scandalous that information about that was then taken off Facebook and suppressed, censored actually. I do think this is a sinister development for Facebook because we rely on it as our general social media sharing platform. And once it starts censoring Nobel Prize winners, I think we're in a very scary world. And what's very odd is that whilst it takes that stuff off, a Nobel Prize winner saying, what is a theory, a hypothesis, that's how science works, people have theories, right? They allow hundreds of thousands of, posts about, aliens channeling information from some other galaxy, or, stuff that normal people would say is fake and unfounded. It's lovely and it's nice to watch, and sometimes they're very beautiful people and very convincing, but it's certainly, if you were to fact check it, you wouldn't be able to prove this is true. If somebody's channeling, some ancient intergalactic being, how can I tell if that's true or not? And yet, if a Nobel Prize winner is saying something scientifically, that's immediately thrown off Facebook. So I do think it points to a certain, some questions for their ethical team to work on. My recommendation would be to have a very soft touch in monitoring things when it comes to truth claims. I think we have to tread carefully here and be scrupulous in our. It's something Buddha said, actually. He said in the matter of right speech, it was he had some things to say about right speech, and one of them is to say what you know. But also to say when you don't know something. Buddha was a sage, enough of a sage to realize that part of honesty is saying what you know, but also saying what you don't know. And it's something that requires humility to say, well, I don't know that. Socrates had such humility, he was saying he didn't know anything. But the Delphic oracle said that made him the wisest man in all Greece. It's a paradox, but the more you know, in a sense, the less you know. So Buddha said, those who practice right speech speak the truth and are steadfast in truthfulness, trustworthy, dependable, and straightforward with others. They reconcile the quarrelling and encourage the united. They delight in harmony, seek after harmony, rejoice in harmony, and create harmony by their words. Their speech is gentle, pleasing to the ear, kindly, heartwarming, courteous, agreeable, and enjoyable to many. They speak at the proper time, according to the facts, according to what is helpful. Their words are worth remembering, timely, well-reasoned, well-chosen, and constructive. That's a beautiful example of Buddha's summing up what right speech is. And as far as possible, I try to do that. I apologise if some people think that when I share posts on Facebook from all different perspectives and give the whole range of opinions that are going on, that I shouldn't. You should just stick to the one narrative, which at any one time is the official narrative. Well, I've been around the block enough to know that, one has to think outside the narrative framework, because what is defined as scientific truth at any one time is always subject to revision and disproof. That's how science works. We have to have intellectual freedom to question, to ask for evidence. And on this matter of this coronavirus pandemic, it's essential that thinking go on and we don't just shut it down. And although I'm not a virologist and therefore can't comment on the technicalities of the discussion, I am a philosopher of science who can comment on the generalities of the discussion. And that I will be continuing to do. So I've written to various bodies. I've written to the Institute of Virology in India asking if they have evidence for its etiology. I've been in touch with colleagues in the WHO asking the same. I've contacted the Papal Academy of Sciences to see if they have any evidence one way or the other, because some Vatican top officials, cardinals, are questioning whether this is a natural occurrence or whether it's man-made. It's natural. They're going to ask these questions. All the churches of the world are shut down. You can't go and do mass. You can't go and talk to your priest. You can't celebrate, Easter as a congregation at the moment. So I've written to the Papal Academy of Sciences to say, why don't they do a commission of inquiry? And as you know, I've written to the Prime Minister of Canada to suggest inaugurating an official inspection of all the labs that might have been tinkering through the UN, through the Bioweapons Convention, which is the official route. That's what it should be. That's what it's there for. We signed this as a world in 1975, and we've been paying, loads of dosh to officials to monitor this, and yet now is when we need it. It should be doing the inspections. Just to clear up whether this is man-made or not. I don't know. I'm doing my Anicant suspension of judgment, but if there's any slight chance it was, then we should know. And it's interesting that the Americans apparently are doing their own research in intelligence circles, and there's some leaked dossier apparently that again cast doubt on the narrative of it's just a natural thing. So I hope intelligence people are working on this, because they ought to earn their money, and they ought to earn their nomenclature of being intelligent. I mean, you can't have stupid intelligence officers. I mean, it defeats the whole purpose. So I hope that MI6 and GCHQ and all the rest of them are really working on this. And I would like the Chinese intelligence services and the Iranian and the Israeli and all of them to work on this together. Because to me, this is not something that should be turned into a pretext of World War III. If it turns out that some country, yes, was tinkering with this stuff and was trying to make bioweapons to, defeat the enemy, then that whole thinking is something we have to grow out of. I'd like those people to come forward and be exposed and shamed, and to confess, to say, yes, we did it, we're sorry. There's nothing like a bit of a confession. It's part of the spiritual work that we all should be doing. We need to self-criticize our own mistakes, shortcomings, and then we can move forward. Only when you admit you did something wrong can you then improve your own ethical performance. And nobody's perfect. It's part of being embodied. So anyway, I think it should be a concerted effort by everyone. What we shouldn't do is weaponize this business and turn it into pretext for further aggression and so on. And I'd like to see peace studies taught in every Chinese university, and I'd be happy to go and lecture there. And the University of Wuhan, we should close the biological warfare departments and set up peace studies departments, and let young Chinese, young Uyghurs, young Americans, young Israelis, young Arabs, young Brits, young Scots, young English, let's seize the peace potential. That's what we want, is a world of peace. We want to come out of lockdown. We want to be able to look each other in the eye and give each other a hug, That's our human right. I don't want these mad scientists making it so that we can't, and that's the legacy of the Vashuas of this world, the demonic nescientists who have been tinkering far too much and being paid to do it. This is what annoys me, whereas the peace scholars exist on a pittance, and the Vashuas of this world drive the Cadillacs and have the private jets. Well, that's got to stop, folks. We've got to reverse this. And so there we are. That's my little sharing for this week. I'm going to end with a poem, because I'm also a poet, as you know. I've just published my 7th volume of poetry, and I love poetry. It says a lot with a few words. This is just a couple of little poems in my 4th volume, actually, which were written between 2008 and 2010. I update them. This is poem number 600 and 601. 600 is called Through. Love, the mirror is, that creates the soul. The light beyond the grave that shines through the tumultuous wave. A steady beacon to a drowning one, storm-tossed, tiptoeing, treading water, gone, and through. And this poem is 601, Recognisings. We are celestial beings. We come from afar. With a wink, a look, a gesture of hands, you can tell. The distance falls away. I know your cosmic nature. You are an ancient, a whisper beyond doom, a hope that is gathering like snow in the upper mountains to make everything beautiful. Okay, there are two little poems to finish. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, and have a fantastic week. And today, this is May the 2nd, and it's my birthday on May the 8th, so this is one of my favourite times of the year. I love the advent of, summariness that's in the air. So have a great May.